Welcome to Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180 for the best in Saturday Talk Radio at 1 o'clock and on 1230 KGEO at 10 o'clock Saturday, and for the very best in Wednesday Talk Radio on 1410 KERI, Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. Your host is Clay Koerner, and I'm Marty Pay, and behind the big board, our producer is Greg Held. Hey, Clay, we had a great show with your buddy Kevin Burton, president of the San Joaquin Hospital Foundation.
Kevin's a great guy.
Yeah. And then in the second half, you and I got into it a little bit with Professor Frederick Harris, the author of The Price of the Ticket, Obama and the Rise and Fall of Black Politics.
About as liberal as they come.
It was an interesting interview, and oddly enough, at the end of it, he said he'd love to come back. So I'd like to have him back on.
He said we were a tough act.
Can you imagine you and I being a tough act?
Not at all.
No. But today in the second half, we've got a friend of the program, Michael Prince from the Gaslight Melodrama. But in the first half, by phone, we've got a very special guest I've been looking forward to talking to. Author, speaker, business consultant, political sage, Doug Johnson. Doug, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here.
Doug, what attracted me to you was your article about Obama's comments about entrepreneurs. But before we go there, I want you to tell us a little bit about Doug Johnson.
Oh, boy. Well, as talkative as I am, I'll try and keep it short because I could take up your whole hour probably talking about myself, which is not a good trait. But I have been a businessman for almost 38 years now. Started actually my first business when I was in school, to put myself through school. I was the son of a very successful businessman who retired at 39, and at 41 went back to work because my mother, I think, was getting annoyed having him around the house too much. And as we were growing up, he said, "I'm not going to leave you any of the money. We're going to do good things with our money. We're going to teach you how to do it yourself." And I guess it worked because we were fortunate to have some successes. And from the time I started my own business when I was in school to the time I was 25, I had started, built, and sold 3 businesses. Then went to work in corporate America for, about 20 years. Retired from that. And during that time, by the time I was 34, I was CEO of a Fortune 500 subsidiary, and then became a specialist at turning companies around and would move from company to company, turning them around. And after I left that industry, I eventually I retired for a couple of years, and I went back to work as a consultant. I've been doing that for quite a few years now, and started writing business books, and those, because of somebody in the media in New York who actually got a hold of them and liked them, they said, "Can you do political commentary about what's happening to our country?" Because it was about the time the whole recession was hitting. And that kind of got me into a different angle of writing, and it's taken off for me. So I've got a new venture on the side, which is my political commentary in addition to my business consulting.
You know, turning businesses around is not a good omen if you're going to run for political office.
No, it's not. And, most people don't understand how that works. And certainly the current Republican candidate, Mitt Romney, who has that in his past, was at a far bigger and more successful level than I've ever been. But he, the public image does not come across well when people don't understand how that whole business works.
Well, he's a dirty entrepreneur.
Well, I think in America these days, all business people, especially those who are successful, are supposed to be, dirty and evil.
Well, before we get into the Obama article, which I know I can tell the three of us are really anxious to talk about, I wanted to mention one thing about your books. And to be honest with you, I've not read any of your books yet, but they're on my list right now. But you just received an award as the first place winner by the Authors Show of the 50 Great Writers You Should Be Reading.
Yeah, I was really, frankly, I was a little stunned when I got it. I was very pleased, obviously, to get something like that, but I did receive that, and that's been a nice feather in the cap. And I was surprised. I'd written 2 business books before I wrote my political book that just came out, and been surprised to get awards both times. The first award was a sales book, and it was an award for sales books, but I guess people have told me just that my writing style is easy to read, and that probably comes from my business background, because in business one of the first rules is make sure you communicate clearly. KISS. Yeah, that's exactly it. And the KISS system, the Keep It Simple, Stupid system, or in my case, Keep It Stupid Simple system, as we used to kid around about, really does work. And people talk about how we communicate on things, and I was raised in business with the mindset that you want to speak not down to people, not up to people. You want to try and speak on their level. So speak at a simple level that people can understand, so it's clear. And so that means don't assume people know what you know. And so you want to define your terms, you want to define things clearly, and make sure you take the time to pause and answer questions, and then people can hopefully have a better conversation with you.
Well, Doug, let's talk clearly for a second. Barack Obama is one very intelligent individual, but why is he so stupid when it comes to business?
That is a phenomenal question. I'm on probably, on the average, I'm on probably 12 or 15 talk shows like yours, and that may be one of the best questions I've ever been asked. And I think the problem is his background, his upbringing. He comes from, and I'm going to set aside the issues of the radical influences and all those things people are talking about, which certainly have influence on him, but just from the standpoint of what has he done in his life, what exposure has he had to business. From what we understand, it appears really the only time he ever really worked in a job where he would have had any exposure at all was when he was serving ice cream in a Baskin-Robbins as a teenager in Hawaii. And I don't really mean that as a negative statement, because some of my greatest lessons were as a young person working in jobs like that, where you actually see business in action, and hands-on, and you're serving a customer. And it actually does start to inform in your mind some things about business. But he doesn't have these experiences, so his background is academic, and it's all theoretical. And the problem with theory is theory does not always play out in reality. And I would doubt, I don't know because we don't know anything about his college records, but I would doubt he ever took many business classes, and even if he did, I would doubt many of the professors ever had any experience in business anyway. So my experience in life has been that people often know more about something when they've experienced it themselves, because experience is the best teacher. And I think that really, on the simplest basis, is the reason he really doesn't understand it. The problem you have is there appears to be such an ego there that he's not open to considering that he could be wrong in what his thoughts are about it.
Our guest by phone, political consultant, author of How to Halt America's Imminent Collapse and Return to the American Dream, and Why It Must Start with the 2012 Elections, No Tomorrows.
You know, Doug, I wonder how many free ice cream cones he gave out to the underprivileged students at his school.
Well, just the fact you're a teenager working in an ice cream shop on a hot day, it may not even be the underprivileged. It may be anybody who comes in and you kind of like. So it's hard to say. It would be interesting to see if his boss was very profitable in his venture. But it's actually an interesting question, because one of the things I learned very early in business, and this is really important, people don't understand, and because my father was a world-renowned sales trainer and just a phenomenal teacher, he taught me sales first before anything else. And it's not what people think it is, and I won't go into a whole discussion of that right now, but the bottom line was one of the key lessons he taught me, and also business owners taught me, was that if you don't, as an employee, do things that make the company successful, we're not going to be here tomorrow to take care of our customers or even to give you a paycheck. So it was really important to remember that there was two sides to the equation. One was customer satisfaction, and the other was business success. And I get the impression that Barack Obama thinks that businesses have deep pockets with unending amounts of money to pour into things, and he doesn't understand they have to earn that money, and they have to be successful, and that most businesses aren't successful. Half of businesses that start up each year fail, and I don't think he really comprehends that.
It's the comment just really irritated me. I'm in the middle. I do a lot of books on tape, and I'm in the middle of listening to The Spirit of Enterprise by George Gerber, which is a classic from the 1980s. And he gives nothing but stories about people who start out with nothing and become entrepreneurs and really live the American dream. Our society, we're supposed to be more self-reliant, less dependent on government. Do you feel he's trying to turn that around and make people more dependent on government and less self-reliant?
I do, and I think his words in Roanoke when he was speaking to that crowd, and the famous statement about if you own a business, you didn't build your business, other people built it for you, basically is what he was saying. I think what that hit me as was that there's obviously no appreciation for the person who puts in all the hours and the effort and the sweat and takes the risk and all those things. And I think there is this, I guess I'll put it this way, the situation when I was growing up is teachers, guidance counselors, family members. If I got lazy, I would hear about it from any and all of them. You were to work hard. That's the way life was, whether it was schoolwork or chores or whatever you were doing. But this appears to be a man who wants to praise people who are not necessarily working hard, they're living off handouts from the government and such, and look at the people who are working hard to build this economy, because that's what businesses do, and chastise them for being successful, and look at them as owing somebody something because they were successful, which really is puzzling to me.
You know, based on his comment, really, it's true to some extent, but we provide the money so that others can help build our business, and the more people that help build our business, the more money we make and the more we can put back so they can build their business and help the government.
Absolutely. You know, it's a cycle, and what I like to remind people, and this is a hard one because a lot of people don't understand it, and it's really easy if you're not a business owner to not comprehend how business benefits you as an employee. But in addition to the fact that you are an employee and it gives you a job and an income, which is great, if we go back in history to the 19th century when the Great American Industrial Revolution started and ran up through there and into the early 20th century, we saw businesses start to do things we'd never seen before, not just innovation and creation of new ideas and new inventions, which was phenomenal, but new ways to produce them, and we developed mass production. And when that happened, of course, these businesses had to have more employees. And at that point in time, in American history or in world history, most people pretty much lived hand to mouth. They'd grow some of their own food, and they would do little things here and there, but they pretty much, not everybody had a guaranteed wage all the time that they could be assured of, and so they didn't really know how life was going to go. And when they started to get jobs in these factories and such, they were able to actually start to build a future for them and their families. They started to be able to save a little money, buy a few things for themselves, maybe even get a home. And as this happened, the middle class was formed, and you saw this growth of wealth in the middle level of society that was beyond what anybody had ever dreamed of anywhere in the world.
Exactly.
And the American middle class set a standard that we are now threatened to lose because of the shape the country is in.
Definitely.
And I dare say that we would not have gotten this far through this terrible recession, which, contrary to what the mainstream media says, is not over. We would not have gotten this far if businesses in our country weren't as strong as they've been.
No question about it. And we come back from the break. I want to ask you a question about Obama's intent here, okay?
Okay.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180.